Before we go any further, discussing things about speakers and car stereos, let's talk about amplifiers. So what is an amplifier? Amplifier is an electrical device that takes a small electrical signal and makes it bigger by amplifying it. It does this by increasing the voltage of the incoming signal. The incoming signal on most amplifiers will come through the RCA ports from the head unit and then go out the speaker terminals. The power rating of an amplifier is the product multiplication of the increased voltage multiplied by the amount of current the amplifier can safely send to the speakers. The amount of current is determined by the ohm load of the speaker system. Remember, voltage is the push, current is the flow. The lower the impedance, the resistance to flow, the higher current flow. Higher current flow equals more power. More power equals voltage, or power equals voltage times amps. Higher impedance, lower current flow. Lower current flow, less power. This is the reason that amplifiers have multiple power ratings. One power rating for 4 ohms and one power rating for 2 ohms. This here is a DS18S1100.2. This is a 2-channel amplifier. What that means is that it has 2 speaker set outputs, so you can power 2 speakers with this amplifier. So the power rating on this amplifier is 60 watts at 4 ohms by 2 channels. That means 60 watts on this channel and 60 watts on this channel. 80 watts at 2 ohms, 80 watts on this channel, 80 watts on that channel. This amplifier also has a rating of 1100 peak watts. What does that mean? The peak wattage rating is a number you will never ever see when you're playing music, simply because that peak number is created or calculated based on the absolute maximum voltage this thing can put out using a very extremely clipped signal that has nothing to do with the musical output. So if you're going to use this as a welder, weld something together, you could probably get 1100 watts out of it. But looking at the graph right here, this line here represents the musical signal going through. The green area under this line is the maximum power that you will see with a very clean signal. Notice that the sine wave goes up to the peak voltage and then comes back down. The red area plus the green area is the calculated maximum power. Notice that if you were to do a musical signal, it would be clipped and then it would come all the way up and then whatever. So, long story short, maximum power is kind of a bogus rating. I wouldn't pay any attention to it at all. Now, how does an amplifier handle speakers? Looking at this display here, if we take this 2-channel amplifier and we hook it up to 2 speakers, we have a channel 1 and a channel 2. We have a 4 ohm speaker hooked up to channel 1 and a 4 ohm speaker hooked up to channel 2. Since the specifications on this amplifier says it does 60 watts at 4 ohms by 2 channels, 60 watts at one speaker and 60 watts at another speaker. Well, what happens when we run dual speakers? We have 2 4 ohm speakers wired in parallel on channel 1, 2 4 ohm speakers wired in parallel on channel 2. Notice that the 80 watts at 2 ohms rating, so 80 watts per channel, that wattage is then divided by each speaker per channel. So now this speaker gets 40 watts and this speaker gets 40 watts because speakers in parallel will share the power from the amplifier. Now, did we gain anything by adding a second speaker? Notice that the power per speaker has dropped from 60 watts to 40 watts, but still the total power per channel is 80 watts. So we can still calculate this gain. So get the SPL gain in total is the wattage gain, the gain we get from the increase in wattage going from 4 ohms to 2 ohms, plus the gain we get from increasing the cone area by doubling the amount of speakers. So if we go through the math, you have 10 log base 10 of 80 over 60, the ratio of the wattage, plus 10 times log base 10 of 2 over 1, the ratio of the speakers. Now we have 2 speakers where we had 1. So wattage gain is 1.25 decibels and cone area gain is 3 decibels. So we get a total decibel gain of 4.25 decibels. Killer. Just by adding a second speaker. So what did we learn today, we learned that amplifiers increase the sound coming out of your speakers by increasing the voltage being sent to those speakers. You can gain decibels simply by adding another speaker to each channel, though it may not be a true doubling of power because amplifiers have limitations. Speakers wired in parallel will share amplifier power, and specifications on amplifiers are a bit tricky. So please be careful and always pay attention to the RMS rating of the amplifier wattage at the ohm load you plan on running your speakers, and not the maximum wattage. Hope you learned a little bit today. Hope I wasn't too crazy, but appreciate you. If you got any questions, if I did anything wrong, hit me up in the comments.